Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
Oh, man. Yo, what a wild day in the NBA. It's not even 6 p.m. yet. It's not even time for free agency yet, but the entire league has been flipped on its head. Welcome on in, Philly Take with RB. We will actually be live talking about free agency very soon, but I had to come on here and talk about this real quick, man. This just in the biggest surprise of it all. Kevin Durant, according to Shams, requesting a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. And in one word, I can describe this man: destruction. Complete destruction. It is over for the Brooklyn Nets. Did the Nets still win the trade? I don't think so. I think it is over for the Brooklyn Nets. It's been a rough week, man. But earlier this week, I said, this was going to blow up. And then Kyrie Irving, in one of the craziest ways, decided to opt into his player option and say that he was trying to change the world and things would be good. And it seemed like everything was meshed together and everything was repaired. And then Kyrie Irving, he comes out here and, he goes through, he takes his $37 million. And a couple days later, we find out that things aren't oh so pretty with the Brooklyn Nets. KD requesting out. Here's a picture from earlier today put up by their third star, Ben Simmons. Okay, he says, feeling incredible. Well, rumors have it on the street that Kevin Durant saw this picture and said, nah, I'm out. Nah. But anyway, this is just crazy that this is happening. They don't even really talk about Ben Simmons like he's, even in that mix anymore, if I'm being completely honest. Joel Embiid reacting to the news that just dropped. He says, LOL. Joel Embiid's having a day looking at this, right? He, a lot that went into this, right? A lot between the Sixers, the Nets, the energy. And when you have a guy like Kevin Durant who's opting out after a couple years, when he tried to make this his destination, he chose this place to play. He tried to put Brooklyn on the map with Kyrie Irving, with James Harden originally, and then traded for Ben Simmons and all this stuff. And we thought Kyrie and KD had a good relationship. Well, guess what? Brooklyn Nets fans tried to make out the fact that it was James Harden who was the problem child. They tried to say that it was James Harden who came late to practices and games and who was a bad energy type of guy in the locker room and who was messing them up. We remember the All-Star draft, all the bad blood, right? After KD had played with James Harden in OKC. And in fact, it turns out that I was right. Like, you got to give me my flowers at this point, man. Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons imploded the Brooklyn Nets. You have a guy of the caliber of Kevin Durant wanting out of Brooklyn. This is crazy. This is one of the biggest trade requests, if not the biggest of all time. This is going to demand a colossal return. Like, imagine trading Kevin Durant a couple years, into having him, and you're the Brooklyn Nets. You made that historically bad trade years ago for Paul Pierce, for Kevin Garnett. Then you go and get Kevin Durant, Kyrie, Harden. You give up all your future picks. You give up D'Lo, Jared Allen, LeVert, all these guys. And in a couple years, they're done. I would argue this is the biggest failure of a super team of all time. What did they play together? 15 games? If not, what was it? 12, 14, 15 games between Kyrie, KD, and Harden. Ben Simmons comes, and this is the craziest part. By the way, Woj also reporting that Kyrie might be done too. I said it a couple days ago. Even though Kyrie opted into that player option, the Nets still have the ability to trade him. And if they don't think, he's a long-term security option, and even though it's going to be harder now, they could get his contract off the books and they won't have to deal with him or signing him to an extension. And now that Kevin Durant's out, it seems kind of likely that Kyrie is going to be gone as well, and that it's finally going to be Ben Simmons' team. I mean, he wanted his own team, right? They lost Drummond in free agency, most likely. Curry might be out. I mean, look, they lost Patty Mills. Things are boiling down in Brooklyn, and I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of it. And I'm waiting for the apologies. I'm waiting for the James Harden apologies. People owe James Harden an apology. Here's why. Here's why they owe him the biggest apology of anyone, man. Because they tried to make him out, like I said, to be the problem child. They said he was the cancer of the locker room, and here are the facts. They said Harden was a quitter. They said he was the quitter. Yet Ben Simmons quit on him in the playoffs, and don't say he didn't. You know, he came out publicly in a press conference and said, I would be ready to go. What was it, game 4, game 3? He said I was going to play. Did not. There were feelings around that team that he kind of gave up on it. And, you know, he was kind of limping out of not a, you know, crazy injury and that he could have played. Those were the feelings. That's what was reported. I'm just here relaying it. Number 2, Kyrie tried to request a sign and trade a couple days ago. Kevin Durant just requested a trade. So both of those guys tried to quit on that franchise and leave within the last 3 days. And lastly, yesterday, James Harden showed his unselfishness by taking a pay cut, helping the Sixers' flexibility situation, helping their cap, and maybe, you know, getting them a guy like PJ Tucker. Harden showed that he is willing to win, and he got out of the bad situation quickly. And, you know, all of those things put together, it just shows, you know, where things have turned at this point. And, you know, I'm seeing Brooklyn Nets reporters saying the same thing. Like, they were saying we were wrong. This team, you know, the chemistry is not there, and the Nets really have botched the situation. Now, shout out to this guy, Jack Settleman. I'm seeing him trending on Twitter. A lot of people are tagging me in his mentions. He says Joel Embiid is making a strong push to get KD to Philadelphia. Do I really believe this is true? No. It actually just came out that Kevin Durant, his top preferred destinations are the Miami Heat and the Phoenix Suns. If I had to take an early stab as to where KD might go, I think he's going to Phoenix. I think it makes the most sense. I think he'll buddy up with Chris Paul, try to get him a ring. Obviously, with the Suns falling a little bit short and the interest of Brooklyn in DeAndre Ayton, you know, I think it would make sense to try to pull off a sign and trade, you know, with Kevin Durant, or I'm sorry, not a sign and trade, but a monster trade of, you know, Ayton to Brooklyn, Kevin Durant back, and probably the biggest haul you've ever seen in terms of draft picks and all this stuff. I think that's the most likely. You know, I just think Kevin Durant would fit in Phoenix, and it would make sense. Send him out west if he's not going to come to Philly. That's fine. Now, people are already asking me if there was ever a way to get him to Philly, would I do it? The answer is absolutely. Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid would be the most unstoppable force of all time. They really would be. But do I think realistically KD would want to come to Philly? The answer is probably no. But there's a lot of talks, a lot of speculation. This is a huge bomb to drop on the opening of free agency, man. It's just really shaking things up and you know, seeing how things may work out. It's crazy. But tying this all to the Sixers, by the way. So immediately after that is announced, everybody's distracted on that news. This little bombshell comes out that the Brooklyn Nets traded for Royce O'Neal from the Utah Jazz, and in return are sending them a first-round pick, which is interesting. You know, they go out and make this little trade. It's like they had it lined up already. Brooklyn is sending a first-round pick, and that could end up being Philadelphia's 2023 first-round pick, the one that they deferred this year. It says Brooklyn will send the lesser of their own Houston or Philadelphia's 2023 first-round pick. Now, it's going to depend, you know, is Brooklyn going to be a bad team? You know, are the Sixers going to be a bad team? Is Houston going to be a bad team? Like, it depends who falls where, but it could end up being the Sixers pick, and that could be rerouted. Like I said, you know, for the last week or two, Brooklyn is going to need those picks. I predicted that this would destruct, and just as I said that, here we are a couple days later, and they have absolutely imploded. The Brooklyn Nets, I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, once again, are done. They are over. I'm not worried about Brooklyn. They are the biggest failure of a super team of all time, in my opinion, based off how this has happened, based off what has transpired. You got Kevin Durant, you got James Harden, Kyrie. They only played about 15 games together. They never got past second round. It's over. It's over for the Brooklyn Nets. And it's going to be interesting to see. You know, it's wild how they kind of like don't even mention Ben Simmons anymore. Like, you know, now it's going to be what, his team? Is Kyrie going to stay? Apparently the relationship between Kyrie and KD is not going to be amended. I personally believe Kyrie will be traded as well. I think the Nets are going into full tank mode. I think they're going to try to rebuild and get back some of the draft assets that they completely just threw away getting these players. And it's just wild to see. It really is. Like, shout out to the Nets fans, the few and far in between out there. I actually feel a little bit bad for them. I do. Like, imagine having these kind of guys on your roster and it all comes crashing down just like that. Just like that. And yeah, man, Sixers won the trade. Free agency will begin soon. We'll see what the Sixers do to make some improvements. But what a splash to start the day. And Sixers won the trade, man. That's all I got. Give me your thoughts down below. Where will Kevin Durant land? Give me your thoughts, predictions. Give me some hot takes, man. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one, man. Peace.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.